Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the November 29th meeting of the St. Mary's County Planning Commission. Our meeting this evening is being recorded for the public record. Any comments made by anyone present must be recorded as part of the record. Therefore, if you have anything to say, you must come up to one of the microphones provided, or when giving testimony online or by telephone, please give us your name followed by your statement. Your comments cannot be recorded and placed in the record unless they are done in this fashion. You are to direct your statements, questions, and responses to the board only, and we will direct them to the appropriate person for an answer. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Anyone testifying or asking questions during our public hearing will be required to take an oath. And I'd like to thank you for your cooperation, and please put your cell phones on silence if you could. Okay, on our agenda this evening, after approval of our October 25th minutes, our one and only public hearing tonight is number 21-132-003 for the three-notch commercial. The owner is ARLS Properties, and the action requested by them this evening is a review of a concept site plan for a 5,380 square foot convenience store with fuel sales and a 2,365 square foot fast food restaurant with a drive-through. Okay, at this time I'll let the board members introduce themselves, starting with Ms. Summers.
Patty Robrick.
Howard Thompson.
Joe Van Kirk.
Joe Fazekas.
Joe St. Clair.
Merle Evans.
Also with us this evening from the county staff, our video media producer is Amy Carter. From the Department of Economic Development, we have Casey Guidry. From the Department of the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission, Mr. Andy Balkin. Let's see, looking at the screen. Yes. From the Department of Public Works and Transportation, we have Donald Mills. Don't think we have Mr. Dietrich here tonight. Our Deputy County Attorney, Mr. Neil Murphy, is here, and the John Hauser, the Assistant to the County Attorney, is also here. From Land Use and Growth Management, we have their Director, Mr. Bill Hunt, their Planner, Courtney Jenkins, Brandy Glenn, and Kimberly Wood will be working that end of it. Did everybody have a chance to review the October 25th minutes?
Yes, I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I guess this one I'm pretty good. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The second one, I won't be doing that.
I have to abstain, so I'm not on the.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. That to the side. Our first meeting, as I say, will be for the three-notch commercial. Before we get started, everybody in the room that will be testifying or giving statements, asking questions, or coming to the microphone mainly, if you would stand at this time, and I'll get everybody sworn in. And if there's anybody calling in tonight, I'll be swearing you in as it goes along. Do you declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony, responses, and statements you may give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Courtney.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Planning Commission members. Agenda item 1 is a concept site plan for three-notch commercial. The concept site plan seeks approval for a 5,380 square foot convenience store with fuel sales and a 2,365 square foot fast food restaurant with a drive-through. The site is located at 37590 Oaks Road and 30315 Three Notch Road in Charlotte Hall. The land use is mixed use moderate intensity, and the zoning is town center mixed use. Use type 60 is fuel sales, which are establishments engaged in the retail dispensing or sale of vehicular fuels and lubricants or household propane. Use type 48, convenience store, are retail establishments engaged in the sale of prepackaged food products, household items, newspapers and magazines, and sandwiches and other freshly prepared foods for off-site consumption.
I understand, thank you.
Use type 74 is a fast food restaurant, is an establishment that offers quick eat-in or takeout food service, which is accomplished through a limited menu of items already prepared and held for service, or prepared, fried, grilled quickly, or heated in a device such as a microwave oven. Use type 115 is an accessory use for drive-through services, which are facilities that provide services to persons remaining in automobiles. The regulations for the Town Center Mixed-Use District provide opportunities for residential and commercial development within town centers, consistent with the comprehensive plan. Standards are intended to create an urban character and make the core area feel safe, pedestrian-friendly, and visually attractive. Per the comprehensive plan, town centers are secondary growth centers and are located in Charlotte Hall, Newmarket, Mechanicsville, Hollywood, and Piney Point. They are to be urban and pattern informed, designed for moderately intense residential, commercial, and industrial developments, supported by provisions of community facilities and services. Town centers are growth areas that are secondary to development districts, where infrastructure should be provided to support densities of up to 5 units per acre, and where mixed-use development should be encouraged. Master plans should be generated for each of the town centers to ensure that visual and functional qualities of development adheres to standards for landscaping, architectural design, on-site and off-site advertising, access, lot coverage, and open space, and buffering from adjacent developments and transportation corridors. They allow for and provide adequate buffers to avoid conflicts between different land use types and to provide visual screening. They should discourage strip development and restrict direct access onto 3 Notch Road and Charlotte Hall, Newmarket, Mechanicsville, and Hollywood. The public notice for the Planning Commission public hearing was published in the Southern Maryland News on November 12th and November 19th, 2021. The property has been posted in accordance with the CZO requirements, Section 21.3.3. Certified mail receipts have been received and have been entered into the record of this public hearing as Exhibit 1, and the agenda was posted on the website on November 9th, 2021. The concept site plan was reviewed at the TEC meeting that was held on February 24th, 2021. Fuel sales and convenience stores are permitted uses in the TMX zoning district with site plan approval required. Restaurant, fast food, and drive-through services are also permitted uses. For all non-residential and multifamily residential projects that require major site plan approval, a concept site plan shall first be approved by the Planning Commission before the major site plan may be processed for approval by the Planning Director. This is a public hearing which enables all who wish to provide information to the Planning Commission. In order to approve the concept site plan, the Planning Commission shall make the findings that the proposed development is consistent with the comprehensive plan and applicable functional plans, may be served by adequate public facilities as required by Section 70.2.2, will promote the health, safety, and welfare of the general public, that it is adequately developed for recreational and other community amenities are provided in accordance with the comprehensive plan and the comprehensive zoning ordinance, and is consistent with Chapter 62 design objectives. The applicant is prepared to address any issues and answer any questions you may have. This concludes the staff's report and is entered into the record of this public hearing as Exhibit 2. Representing the applicant is Chris Longmore, and then also we have Nelson Aracha with Bay Engineering. Are there any questions for me?
Is there any questions of staff at this time?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Longmore.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. It's nice to see you this evening live. We are here tonight with this concept site plan application. I'll just introduce the team and then turn it over to the folks that are going to be testifying tonight. Tonight we have with us Nelson Orocho, as Ms. Jenkins had mentioned, with Bay Engineering. He'll begin our PowerPoint and run through the concept site plan. Jackie Chandler with Traffic Concepts is also here by Zoom tonight, and she will go through some of the slides we have and discuss any questions about the traffic impact study, as well as the proposed mitigation measures that are included as part of the application. Justin Rosemore is also online by Zoom. He is with the applicant. He was planning to be here tonight, but he is in Baltimore. He's under the weather, but he's participating by Zoom this evening, so he is here if you have any questions of the applicant as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nelson, let him start presenting on the concept site plan.
All right, thank you again. Thank you for allowing us to be here this evening, and I'll just start right off.
Okay.
Yeah. Just start with the first, yeah. So the existing property is 3 parcels. The existing use is is an existing house to the southwest corner of the 1 parcel, and the remaining 2 parcels is where the Wentworth's business straddles, right? The 2 parcels. So there's 3 parcels. Just before I forget, and because I'm getting old, we're intending to plat so that the 3 lots will become 2, one parcel for the Starbucks, 1 parcel for the Royal Farms. So there will be a lot line, an adjustment for this property that will happen. So again, staff is already in the staff report stated for the square footage of the site, it's a Royal Farms convenience store of fuel. There is regular fuel and diesel fuel. If you look at the plan, you'll see on the left that angled canopy area is where the diesel fuel would be, and the remaining would be regular fuel. The setup is that you see the black, darker boxes. Those are piers. In the center is the dispenser. So you just have 1 car on each side. So 12 vehicles would be parked, right? If it was full, 12 vehicles. And then as far as the fuel, diesel, if it's truck, small or large, you would have 6 of them on the left there or to the south of the site plan. The area to the north, up at the corner of Oaks and Charlotte Hall Road, Old Route 5, is where the septic fields would be for both parcels. Since we'll have it would be a subdivision, 2 parcels, each one will have its septic system on its own property, so that all per code and per the health department regulations. And also the state, just again in general, we've vetted through with the health department based on the use and the demands, and went through the sizing of the fields, and that's all been approved at this point for the uses. Obviously, we have 1 entrance onto 3 Notch Road, Route 5. That is a right in and a right out, and a entrance off of both Charlotte Hall Road and then Oaks Road, with the improvements that are shown. Jackie Chandler would get more detail for you all with respect to those improvements and how we came about to needing those. The site actually was in development. We have, with regard to stormwater management, environmental site design, which is required per the state as far as our engineering and for environmental site design, the site impervious area was actually close to 206,000 square feet The development is not quite half, but it's close. It's about 117,000 square feet. So from an environmental standpoint, an impact, and so forth, it really will be enhanced. It didn't have stormwater management before. It will have it now with the design, and also, again, there's less impervious area. So from that standpoint, there's improvements from that aspect. You can see on again, the slide here to the right or to the north corner, it will be a gravel wetlands device that will capture a majority of the water. Everything flows down to that point. There's a ditch between the two properties, this property we're developing and the adjoiner, and the water all flows down to that point. As far as drainage goes across the road through a culvert and underneath the trail, right, and then continues on the property to the west. That's the basic drainage pattern of the site. So we're able to collect the water, treat it before it goes off-site, and again, that works out well from that standpoint. Vehicle circulation is pretty standard as far as the internally, as far as the site. Vehicles coming in will go right or left and be able to circulate. There's ample parking for both sites. There is more parking than required, I guess, as far as code on the Royal Farm side, but we mitigate that through the code with additional plantings, which staff has reviewed and has approved that. And we could probably slide, if you don't mind. That's a lot of numbers. Keep going, please. There we go. That's, as they say, a prettier picture. So this is the rendering with again, you can see the green and the landscape. This again is preliminary. We have our buffers required per units, but not yet picked species and such. But as far as the numbers, we meet the requirement for what we have, either for buffers or internal parking offsets and needs. Guess didn't have much more.
Mr. Rocha, do you mind pointing out on the plans for the commission the pedestrian walkways?
Yep. So we have a sidewalk that will go along Oaks Road. There's an internal sidewalk. It picks up at Oaks Road. It would go to the intersection of Oaks and Charlotte Hall, and then be able to get basically those in that visit here. If they're pedestrian, for pedestrian flow purposes, they can get to the trail and be able to access the site and maneuver that way. So there's connectivity between the trail, that intersection, and the site.
Are there internal walkways as well,
Yes.
or internal sidewalks?
Yes.
Can you describe generally, just in case the commission can't see where they are on the plan?
Oh, okay. Maybe if we go back, because the coloring overshadows, you don't mind?
Sure.
Back a slide. There we go. So you'll see if you're if you're on the Three Notch Road, you'll see to the north or right there's a sidewalk that comes up. Then there would be a ability to cross at that point, and then there's sidewalk that connects the Starbucks. The sidewalk then runs again on the north of that combined kind of road there. It gets you to the Royal Farms. There's obviously pedestrian accessibility along the front of the Royal Farms to the east side of it. Then the walk continues south there, gets to Oaks Road again, and heads to the west to the intersection there of Oaks and Charlotte Hall Road.
And am I correct, there's a notation on the site plan showing that there's also a bike rack for any individuals that may ride bicycles to the site?
Yes, it's pretty standard for both sites, both for Starbucks and for Royal Farms to have bike racks. They like to incorporate that in their site designs.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add about the site plan? Ms. Chandler, we'll jump in a minute and talk about the traffic.
I think
issues.
I always tend to think talking less is better, and I'll take questions if needed. So I think Jackie maybe can get it.
Can you, I see the sidewalks here now, the internal ones. When you were pointing to your screen, and
Yeah, I tried to,
it wasn't really being pointed out, I'll say, on the viewer screen.
yeah.
I just wanted to see if maybe we could get a tighter picture of that so that they could see where those sidewalks are running within that site, if that's possible.
I think this slide probably actually shows it the best. I don't think you guys can see mine.
Yeah, well, actually, your arrow, if, Courtney, if you don't mind, if you put the arrow there on yeah, so there's the walk as it connects to Three Notch, going again west or to the north side of that entrance, and then you have connectivity going across. There would be a hatched, area for pedestrians to cross. Then the walkway there it gets you either to the Starbucks, or then you would go up and then exactly go to the left or the south, going in front of the Royal Farms, and that sidewalk then continues all the way then to Oaks Road. Then when connecting to Oaks Road, it would then go west to the intersection of Oaks and Charlotte Hall Road.
Were you planning on having any sidewalks out on Route 5 itself? I see you've got one from Route 5 into your site, but along Route 5, were you going to put any on there?
We currently don't show any, but if it was something conditional or something that needed to,
Well, the only reason
That's good.
I say, just for safety-wise on this, say if there was somebody, they might see a sidewalk there at your, I'll say, right in, right out, but there's nothing leading up to it, so they'd be walking down the side of the road to get on that nice new sidewalk that you have coming into the site. So it might make sense to have a sidewalk down 5, so that if they were to come across the intersection right there at Oaks Road, or even like across where your competitor, I'll say, is across the street, if they were to cross the street, they'd have a sidewalk to get onto.
right? And that's something we would also
I mean, that's something.
vet with state highways, because obviously it's their road and they have control. So that was something as far as they're deeming, for safety, health, and welfare if they wanted. But we would, again, that's something we sure will investigate and see what we can do to accommodate that.
The board might consider that somewhere along the line tonight, but I just wanted to ask that question. Also, at the south end, I'll say at the very south, the point where Oaks Road meets Charlotte Hall Road, I'm not sure right now, this probably be a Donnie Mills question, but is there a crosswalk that goes across that road? And I just drove across that road yesterday. Shows you what my memory is. But I'm just wondering if something goes across that goes to that trail. I know there's a crosswalk that goes across the road, to delineate that the trail is right there, for people to watch, but.
Yeah, I do not, I was one of those people.
I can go to my county.
Yeah, I don't remember. I actually walked along the frontage one windy and very busy day, and I don't remember there being a crosswalk. I kind of had to, look and run, but I don't think there is a crosswalk there.
Well, thankfully, we have our GIS maps up this evening, Mr. Hunt, thank you. And, no, I don't see one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to ask that question real quick while it was out there.
I would like to jump in and just say that even though there's not one now, it makes sense while we're looking at this project to consider that, just because of the safety of pedestrians going down 5. We all know the speeds when people go down Route 5 there, and if you're putting any kind of sidewalk in, there's people are going to try to use it, and then all of a sudden it's going to disappear, and that's the when sidewalks come and go, I think that causes more problems for pedestrian safety than if you don't have the sidewalks at all in the first place. So that's definitely something I would like to see. And then you said you would do Mr. Arturo, you said you would do a hatching or some kind of marked crosswalk where the right-in comes as you're going across the driveway for the Starbucks. That'd be Lot 2. Yeah, that's something I think we'd like to see as well. Just, obviously, that'd be a great place to put it. But just to show that on the plan would make sense. I've actually got a question. I don't know if you could show me on here. So we have the two, after the lots are adjusted, you have two lots. Lot 2, I believe, is the Starbucks.
Correct.
The sewage, septic area, leach field for Lot 2 is not contiguous. So there's,
Oh, yeah.
is that correct?
No, so we did. If you look on the plan, and Courtney, if your arrow, we're following up at the Charlotte Hall entrance, you could see there's a lot line there. So what we've done is there's a connection. So the Starbucks has a small sliver, about 20 so feet up there, where those existing trees are. That we're trying to keep.
That's part of the lot.
That's part of the lot. So what we've done is we basically made that connection.
Gotcha.
Because when we were, what's the term, negotiating, talking, and working it out with the health department, we had to work that in. That was part of what we had to do to make it on its own lot. So the septic, and also too, what happens is there's some pre-treatment when you get into the design of these. There's pre-treatment for both facilities, and there will be the sewage lines and the discharge back and forth. So we needed the area anyway to get there. So it made sense. It's on its own lot. There's no easements or anything like that. It's on its lot, so this way there's no issue between the two entities when it comes to their use, their maintenance, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was one of my concerns. It sounded like, just looking at the plan, that it was going over an easement, and I said, what happens if there's some disputes over the easement? But that's good that you have that. And then you said it goes under a culvert, essentially, of the driveway there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had for right now. Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm not sure if I'm reading this correctly, but when I'm looking at the traffic pattern that's coming out of the Starbucks, am I reading correctly that the traffic is going to be making a right going towards Charlotte Hall Road out of the Starbucks?
So coming out of Starbucks, you can go either left or right.
Okay.
Yeah. What happens is there's a water line, just on this plan, there's a line that it covers the other arrow, so it's hard to see. Apologies, yeah. But you're able to go right or left out of the Starbucks main access point, let's call it that, yeah. Yep.
One quick question.
Sure.
You brought up impervious surface.
Yeah.
With it being a nursery, what are you doing to, you said you almost cut it in half from 206 to 117, which is great, but how's that accomplished when that was mostly trees and shrubs planted out there in the fields, and now it seems like it's cut in half? It's a good thing, but.
Yeah, so actually Mr. Hunt can show you the aerial, you're looking at the aerial. So there's a lot of structures and buildings out there, and when we did our ALTA survey, or higher level surveying, we went out there and actually started locating stone, gravel. There's just stone and gravel everywhere. So there's green on top, right? The plants, and green, but. You're moving all that stuff aside. There's a lot of impervious area, and actually, the way it worked from a code standpoint, from stormwater management for the state, it met the requirement for what's deemed redevelopment, because actually the impervious is above 40% for the site. And then also, we had some preliminary soil borings done out there, and a lot of times we find this with older sites that have been abandoned, where let's say the weeds have grown, and you look at an aerial, and it looks like, oh, it's all green. But you go out there and you do a boring, all it is a little bit of skimming on top, and it's 8 inches of stone and a bunch of junk, or buried, there's technically then no impervious this happening. You know, it's basically just a surface skimming of some dirt and weeds that have grown, but there's nothing there. So we found a lot of graveled areas out there. So when we mapped that all out and then showed it to the engineering department and reviewed it, you know, it was clear that it met the redevelopment requirement, and the impervious was going to be decreased by quite a bit.
Plus the fact that I guess it had no stormwater management prior.
No, I had no stormwater management.
I'm just curious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Go ahead.
No, I don't know if I have any questions here. I had to, I guess once the, I guess the applicant's on the line. Let me ask this quick question. I know you guys have used Royal Farms, you know, as a name. Is that a set in stone? Is there a letter of intent? That's.
Yeah, it's said, yeah, this will be Royal Farms. That's the intent. And Starbucks is also, I mean, Justin is on the.
Yeah, no,
on
we
the line,
seen
but-
in the plan that was still questionable according to what we seen, but it was.
No, the Royal Farms is for certain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually jump on to Mr. Van Kirk's question. So what would a typical, I mean, so I guess the property is then leased to the tenants, to Royal Farms and to Starbucks? It's not being sold to them, correct? Is that the way it works?
That question you'll have to ask to Justin. Since we're subdividing it, there may be property exchange occurring there. But he could probably answer that better.
Okay.
You
So
know,
if it's a lease and not a sale, I was just wondering how long would a typical lease for something like this be?
Okay, yeah.
It is a lease. This is Justin Rosemore. It is a lease to both Royal Farms
think
and
he's sworn.
also a lease
No,
I
he's
to
just want to say, sir,
Starbucks.
before you give us your answer, I need to, one, get your name and
Okay.
address, and I need to swear you in.
Sure. It's Justin, and last name is Rosemore, and the address is 3504 Old Court Road, and that's Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay. Trusting you to raise your right hand. Do you declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony, responses, and statements you may give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead, please.
So, yeah, I apologize. So the Royal Farms is a lease, and the Starbucks is also a lease. It's not for sale of the property to either entity. In the terms of those leases, Royal Farms is 20 years, and the Starbucks, I believe, is 15 from my recollection. It's possible it could be 20 also, but I believe it's 15.
Okay, it's a long-term lease. I guess that's what I was trying to get at. Because coming back from Thanksgiving this weekend, I stopped at a Wawa, and they have some Tesla chargers, and every single Tesla charger in Middletown, Delaware, was occupied. And there's actually one waiting for one of them to get away. So I guess my question to the applicant, I'm not sure who'd be appropriate to answer that. With both Ford and Chevy saying they're going to be 100% electric by 2035, that's, if I do my math right, that's 12, 13 years. Are there any charging points, on this that I missed? And was that discussed, or is there any future plans to include that so that, when most of your customers are going by with electric vehicles, they're not just, passing you up and going to the Wawa across the street, basically?
Yes, sir. So this is Justin Rosemore speaking again. I can't really speak for Royal Farms. I can tell you I have multiple sites where Royal Farms is our tenant, and they do have Tesla chargers. I believe they go through a process where they have to reach out to Tesla and negotiate with them. And if Tesla already has electric chargers in the area, then that could be an obstacle that they may have to overcome. But from my understanding, they would like to have electric chargers at most of their stores to pick up those customers that are driving by in electric vehicles.
Okay.
But I cannot say for sure at this time, when or if they're going to be installing electric chargers.
Sure. So, Mr. Rosemore, so this from your experience, though, after this is developed, and let's just say that, the demand now supports that we'd like to do that, is that a difficult process then to go in there and to add those? Because obviously you need some infrastructure, you need, the high-powered wiring, and there's probably some
Right.
digging up and such.
Yeah, so I know they've retrofitted sites before. So what's actually involved, I apologize, I don't know the answer to that. But I do know they have retrofitted sites in the past to include electric chargers.
Okay.
So in right now, I would say I'm probably working with them probably close to 10 sites. And Tesla has approved, I believe it's 4 of those to put electric chargers. And there's really, from my understanding with convenience stores or gas stations, there's really not a negative side, a downside to including the electric chargers. I think it's really as you pointed out, the infrastructure. So they need, somebody who's got that technical experience, such as a Tesla, to come in and program it and put in those chargers typically.
Sure. Yeah, I did notice at the Wawa that we stopped at, that they had some signs, 15-minute parking for non-charging. So I guess if there was, a very busy, lunch crowd or something like that, and there weren't a lot of people charging their cars, that, you would be allowed permitted to park your non-electric vehicle in those spots. And that's probably a standard that a lot of these places have. My biggest concern just was that we don't approve something and then, find that we have a property that's functionally obsolete, in 10, 15 years. And I know, of course, everyone's not going to, go sell their cars in 10 years and buy the brand new ones, but, the average lifespan of a car, I think there'll be a good volume of those during the life of this lease. So thank you for answering my questions, Mr. Redmond.
Right. You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions? Mr. Evans?
Yeah, just a quick question. Justin, the renderings that we have before us of Royal Farms and the elevations that we have of Starbucks, are these renderings corporate renderings? Or I guess what I'm asking, when I look at Royal Farms, I see sort of a traditional looking, well put together architecture, and then when I look at Starbucks, not so much. I passed a Starbucks today in California, there by Route 4 and 235, and that particular building looks much different. And while we don't have standards, we rely on developers to I'm going to say, I don't mean it to be shortcomings necessarily, but there is a real departure between the two architectures of those buildings. Does Starbucks have? I see this as option 1, and there's some variants. Do they have a different option that's a bit more traditional than this, Justin?
Is it possible for you to share what you're looking at?
On the
That's best I can do.
presentation?
No, we didn't put it because it was part of the staff.
Okay.
It is on board docs. Courtney is one of the.
So I guess while you're seeing if you can put that on the screen, so we've built 3 Starbucks. Starbucks allows for some variation because they want to be able to fit in with, certain areas, have their guidelines, their standards. They want to see, a certain type of architecture. So they allow some variability. It's really a matter of going back. I mean, if there's something that you would like to see different, it's definitely something that I can propose to Starbucks, and I would like to believe we have a very good working relationship, and if they understand it's necessary to kind of fit in with what the community would like to see, I definitely think that's something that we can request. I can't promise that'll happen, though.
Well, and so what I'm getting to is the Starbucks that is in California. The building was built, and then Starbucks leased it for X number of years.
Okay.
Which
That's different.
Well, I understand, but what I'm trying to get at is that, you try to do the best you can to aesthetically have a pleasing town center to the degree that you can, given that we don't have a master plan for this town center. And when you have a building that looks like Royal Farms, that I consider to be a much more finished-looking piece of architecture, and then I have a Starbucks next door that looks not so much. I'm not, I'm not trying to give you a bad time. I'm trying to have this to aesthetically look the best that it can possibly look, given they're side by side.
Right. I guess the only thing that I can say is, that I can request. Are you looking for more of like the stone look, similar to what Royal Farms is presenting?
Actually, I guess I'm looking. This has a flat roof line, and I'm sure that all the mechanicals and all are probably on the roof.
Right.
Just if you could put, just if there was some peaked roof or something, other than just this flat roof, very plain Jane-looking building. And there's the Starbucks that I see on the screen. And if you look at the Royal Farms rendition, it is markedly different.
Right. I can definitely ask. The typical situation with the Starbucks is they will not build or construct their building, so that becomes our responsibility. So, I suspect, but once again, I can't promise you at this point, is that if we're willing to put in additional capital, that they may be willing to work with us. As you pointed out, they do take other buildings and retrofit to be a Starbucks. So I think that is a possibility, and that that is something that we can request of them.
I guess what I'm getting to is that what they want to do is they want to, when somebody drives by, they want them to instantaneously recognize it as a Starbucks. I get that, and I get the colors, and the colors in this other location are actually pretty close. But again, there's some architecture involved in that location in California. More traditional look than this. And given that these things are going to be side by side, and I understand what Starbucks wants. But Starbucks is a big company. Just because they want it doesn't mean they get it.
I can jump on to what Mr. Evans is saying, Mr. Rosemore. The one attachment we received, which was the traffic mitigation proposals, has a lot of aerial photographs on there. And you'll see the Wawa, and you'll see some other building that's not labeled across the street. And obviously the Royal Farms rendering that were shown to us, they all show peaked roofs. And this Starbucks, the option plus the two alternative options all show a flat roof. Just in terms of the neighborhood, if you will, of at that intersection, the Starbucks seems like the odd man out. And while the first of the 7 Starbucks designs, it looks similar to a Wawa or Royal Farms with those. I don't know what you call them, but it's like a stucco panel, I guess you will, that's on the front. When you get down to some of the alternatives, it looks more like a corrugated aluminum. And when we've had a lot of dollar stores come in front of us, we've had some concerns about just the long-term durability of those. We've seen some of the dollar stores in the area that were built earlier with that kind of siding or cladding, and it just doesn't really hold up well over time. So I think I would concur with Mr. Evans that it'd be nice to see something a little bit more in tune with the other buildings around it. And if another example, we had a 7-Eleven proposal recently, and 7-Eleven, they've got their own standards, and the builder actually went out of their way to try to match the existing buildings on both sides of the property in terms of roof line and roof pitch and the same kind of materials. Obviously, they were able to do that within the design standards 7-Eleven. So I think there's surely some flexibility with Starbucks, and I think, the county deserves maybe a little bit more than just the standard cookie cutter that they like to show in those design criteria.
Is it possible to share my screen, or that doesn't work?
You should be able to click that middle button that says share.
Yeah, it says you cannot start screen share while the other participant is sharing.
Okay, let me stop sharing.
So
Okay.
this is so we built this back here, and I guess kind of to your point is we wanted to bring in Starbucks, and Starbucks understood that we wanted to match what we were doing in back. So they did agree, so this was even before we brought Chipotle in, and they did agree to allow us to change their architecture. So I think we should be able to do something here as well.
Okay.
See, that's already better.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's definitely doable.
And just to add a penny's worth.
Yeah.
When I was looking at the rendition, you have the original rendition. I could live with it. I don't know if the neighbors would live with it, but the only thing that bothered me was along the back part, when you come around the drive through, the back of the building looks exactly like it's supposed to be a back of a building. I think you could have taken that canopy and just brought it around on all four sides, though they're going to have tree plantings and such between that driveway and Mechanicsville Road. It's going to be a long while before everything fills in enough so they wouldn't have to see that. So if you had to use the original building, I would suggest bringing your canopies all the way around to the back. One, it would slightly cover your security cage and ladder that you have on the back and just look slightly better. Give it a little bit of extra. Mr. Evans?
Yeah, and just one other point, and I sort of shared this before. Some development that happened in Lexington Park where Dick's is. What is the name of that development right there where Dick's is and Wild Birds and all the rest of that? Anyway, if you, Buck Hewitt Road that runs between CVS and the building across the way, that's the back side of a building, but you'd never know it. What they actually did, and that's actually fairly inexpensive, they just put up faux windows, is what they did. Now, some people choose to light them, other people choose not. These aren't even lit. But what they did was they put these four, and in this rendition, where you have the pipe running down, a faux window on either side of that would break that wall up. In the other location, there are plantings and then there's a fence. I'm not really necessarily suggesting that, but I do think that putting some sort of a faux window breaks up the back side of that building. So it's, again, back to being a bit more aesthetically pleasing, and it's really not of great expense to do that. Of course, it's not my money, so it's no expense to me. so.
Okay.
Nickel and dime you right to death, but that's just,
It's what we do.
No, that's okay.
I mean, yeah, and that rendition that's up, the backside of the, I get it. Backside of buildings are backsides of buildings. And it's not a problem unless you have to look at it. And so I think that's a fairly inexpensive way of addressing that back wall.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any other questions or comments for the applicant?
No, traffic questions.
We're saving it for traffic. Batter up, Ms. Chandler. It's your turn. Was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's all. We have a couple slides that Ms. Chandler can go through on the traffic. I don't think she's sworn in yet, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm definitely get her. Ms. Chandler, and I can see you, so I'm counting on you to raise your right hand. Do you declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony, responses, and statements you may give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, ma'am. Would you give us your name and address, please?
Sure. Jackie Chandler with Traffic Concepts, 7525 Connolly Drive, Hanover, Maryland, 21076.
Okay, Ms. Chandler, if you'd like to, go ahead and start with your part of the presentation, and we'll pepper you with questions.
Thank you. Okay, a traffic impact study was prepared for this project to determine the adequacy of the intersections nearby. Those intersections included in the traffic study were the 3 access points for the development, as well as the triangle area. So that includes Maryland 5 at Charlotte Hall Road, Maryland 5 at Mount Wolf and Oaks Road, and also the 4-way stop at Charlotte Hall Road and Oaks Road. The traffic impact study in this area, because it's in the Charlotte Hall Town Center, the level of service that's required is a C or better. The traffic impact study showed that all of the intersections studied would work at acceptable levels of C or better, with one exception. And that exception was Maryland 5 at Mount Wolf and Oaks Road. Initially, in the traffic impact study, we offered to extend the southbound Maryland 5 left turn lane. That's deficient today. You can tell there was a photo in the traffic impact study on page 37 that shows how vehicles today drive off into the median. There's a worn area there. So in the traffic study, that was our initial offer to mitigate, was to extend that turn bay to improve that deficiency. Not that this project would add any vehicles to that turn bay, but when you add traffic to an intersection overall, it changes your queue. It takes time away from one movement and adds to another. So this project did affect the queue there, although it does not theoretically add any vehicles. That was submitted and reviewed. We had a follow-up meeting with staff, Land Use and Growth Management, as well as Department of Public Works and Transportation. They suggested that we look at some other options in addition to that lane extension. So we also looked at a widening on Oaks Road, which the developer is offering at this time. I think it's the slide maybe before the one that you have up that shows the widening on Oaks Road. So basically what this widening on Oaks Road does is it will bring the intersection level of service back to an acceptable C, but it will also improve the queue because we're adding a left turn bay. So it'll be a double left out of Oaks Road and then a shared through right lane. This will reduce the queue so that we don't have any issues with the proposed access, having to pull out when there are vehicles queued at the signal here. I don't really have too much to add as a presentation other than that. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, so I'll just open it up for questions at this point.
I'll start.
Go ahead.
Ms. Chandler, so from the looks of what's up on the screen here, you're actually taking some property away from your site in order to achieve this widening at that intersection on Oaks Road. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So in addition to the double left out, you'll see that we're also widening enough to provide a right turn lane into the site.
Okay. So for the where the yellow line is now, compared to what we're seeing on the screen here, is there anything being taken away on the catty corner on the other side of Oaks Road there? In order
on the south side, no.
Yeah. No. Okay. Does that require moving the yellow line over? The center line?
Yes, it will be restriped.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And you can see in the center, in the median area of Maryland 5, we're also going to have to cut back a little bit of that median just to make sure that the double F can occur.
Gotcha. Yep, I see it. Thank you.
Okay. Sure thing.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have got quite a few. Hi, Ms. Chandler, Joe Van Kirk speaking.
Hi, Mr. Van Kirk.
Since we're talking about that adding on Oaks Road, it gets to a point, and I'm not a traffic engineer, and I'm not a Maryland State Highway engineer. I'll never understand the validity of the third lane to the south, which goes straight through, and it's supposed to be your south turn onto 5. We had this in the 7-Eleven over Leonardtown. It made no sense there. It makes no sense here. You got all these cars that's going to be coming out of the Oaks Road entrance to go south, and they can't move. So I'll just never understand that particular movement in any intersection. It just doesn't seem. I mean, what you've done is you've helped with some queuing back on Oaks Road, getting through and across, but you're still going to have more traffic now than you have.
And Mr. Van Kirk, I think I understand your question. So we're providing a new right-in, right-out access to Maryland 5 from the site.
Right.
So folks that wish to come out of the site and head south on Maryland 5, most of those folks will use that new right-in, right-out access.
Yeah, I've heard you guys say that
There's
many
not
times on these projects, and I just don't see how they're going to be fighting cars doing 65 miles an hour down Route 5 trying to get over to turn into Oaks Road. I don't see how all the thousands of cars a day, however many, and it's another question, what's the total number, but I'll get to that in a second. So I'm sure some of them are going to be coming out of there, of course. I mean, common sense says they're going to distribute mostly by these two, not counting the Charlotte Hall one. So I don't see any high majority. I mean, even if it's 60-40, which I tend to doubt, then they're going to have to come to that light. If it was a straight through right turn like we discussed on other projects, it to me makes a whole lot more sense. But I won't just give me my opinion on that. Go ahead, you can answer. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. There is an exhibit, and maybe this is what you're referring to. There should be an exhibit that shows an auxiliary lane. So this developer is taking the existing right turn lane onto Oaks Road and extending it back along the frontage and beyond the frontage of the property. I believe it's the exhibit before
Number 5.
the widening of Oaks Road.
Okay. We're getting to that. Hold on one second.
Yeah, and I apologize because I'm also watching you guys on YouTube, and that's a little delayed. So.
Was that sharing now? Okay.
I think that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So that existing right turn lane is being extended back beyond the right in, right out access.
I'm not talking about.
And it'll be marked-
I was talking about the Oaks
Oaks.
Road. 3 lanes.
Okay. There's not a lot of right turns coming out of Oaks Road
Well, there's not.
during the peak hours, and they're controlled by the traffic signal coming out of Oaks Road.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So they have to,
That they're going to be stacked up, waiting for people to be able to move with the flow of the traffic across, and they're all going to be backed up, waiting to make a right-hand turn.
I see what you're saying. So during the peak hours, in the morning, there's 14 vehicles per hour making that right turn lane and making that right turn. And then in the afternoon, it's 28 vehicles during the peak hour.
I'm sure that's.
So even in the higher PM peak, that's, 1 car every 2 minutes.
That's the projection.
Yeah, Ms. Chandler, can you state where you got those numbers from? The commissioners are asking that. I don't know if you heard.
Okay, I could not hear that. I apologize. Traffic counts were conducted at the intersection. So those were existing volumes, and then we added in the percentage of folks that would come out of the site that would actually use the Oaks Road access to make a right rather than coming out of the new right out access on the 5.
Was that during?
Yeah.
Was that a week?
Ms. Chandler, did you hear that question?
She's on a little.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not being able to hear the commissioners.
The question was were those counts taken during the week or on a weekend? Was that right, Ms. Robert?
They are weekday counts. We're required to analyze during the morning peak hour during the week and then the afternoon peak hour during the week.
And those were actual counts that you all had done?
Correct.
That must be a different road than I travel on
Yeah,
there.
me too.
Me too.
Because it's a little bit busier than that.
Yeah, hold up.
I'm not doubting your counter. I'm just in doubt, let's just say that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
On where we're looking at now, that was the actual count that they were taking. The whole object behind a business being there is to increase the flow of traffic. So you're looking at actual versus what's projected to come. Is there...
I believe Ms. Chandler said they took the actuals and added their projections that would be coming out of the Royal Farm site. But Jackie, did you hear Commissioner Sinclair's question?
I did hear that,
Okay.
yes. And so understanding that, we have most of our volume using this new right in, right out access to come right out to go southbound on 5. Keep in mind that for a convenience store, most of the trips associated with a convenience store, 76%, are pass-by trips. So they're vehicles that are already on the road today. And they say, I'm heading to work this morning. I need to stop and get gas. So they pull into the Royal Farms and then they pull back out and go in the same direction. We assume that the majority of the folks using this Royal Farm and the Starbucks will come out on that right out access, the proposed access on the 5, and not out through Oaks Road. It's an easier direct access to Route 5.
Can I just interject and say that as a person who lives in that area, that oftentimes because of the traffic on Route 5, I will opt to go out on Oaks Road so that I can get to the light to ensure a safer exit from that area. So that's another thing to consider as well, is that the people who are going into the establishment are also locals who understand the danger of the traffic situations that often happen on Route 5 and will opt to go out on the less traveled road just so that they have the option of having the turn signal, or the light, excuse me, to assist in
Yes, and-
getting back out on the highway.
Absolutely. Yes, and I totally agree with that for folks that want to make the left out back to go north on 5 or to go straight across. But the right in, right out off of 5, it will be a stop condition, so it's not, there's not going to be weaving. It would basically be the same as making a right at the stoplight, because you will have folks stopped along Route 5 at the light as well. And it will be stop controlled. It should ease some of the pressure off of Oaks Road rather than, having all of those right in, right out folks using Oaks Road.
I think what also can contribute to that congestion on Oaks Road is the Shell station there. Oftentimes trying to leave the Wentworth parking lot as it is currently and come back out onto Oaks Road, you have traffic coming from the Shell station as well as Oaks Road trying to get out of Route 5. That can be a little congestion, can lead to congestion sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. And keep in mind that this developer is proposing to add another lane, so that queue will be less than it is under existing.
Yes, but you're still crossing 4 lanes of traffic in order to use that right turn or through lane. If you're pulling out right now out of the Wentworth site and you're taking a turning left so that you can get out to 5, you're going to cross the through lane and 2 turn lanes to get to the, I'll say, the straight through / south turn lane. So it's going to
Yes.
be a bit heavy. Plus, you got to worry about that business across the street. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It just that, when Ms. Summers brought that up, I mean, you got 2 businesses, I'll say, competing to get to that light. Though the, I wouldn't want to say the smaller business on the other side, everybody's business is their business. So, I mean, but, they're somewhatly busy too. And I mean, that's the, I'll say, the gas station intersection of Charlotte Hall. That's where everybody gas is up. There's a Exxon back there on Golden Beach Road. But other than that, that's your hot spot. That's where it's going to happen. I hope I'm saying.
Yeah, and we did, yes. In addition, in working with the State Highway Administration, the state uses a traffic simulation program that's called Synchro. They use that program to time their signals along corridors such as Maryland 5. We took their model and put our traffic volumes in, and that's what we used to, show to the state that we were improving the queue here by adding this lane, because what you can do is, you can move time around for the signal timing if you can get people through this intersection quicker. So if you have 2 left turn lanes, you can get folks out quicker with less time necessary. So it does improve the queue. So we use that program. It's printouts from that were included in the traffic mitigation proposal, but as well to work with the state to show that, these improvements will get the intersection back to the C level of service and improve the queuing situation.
You've worked with us before, Mrs. Chandler, on different sites. One that comes to mind is the hotel that's down by St. John's property in California, Maryland, that you all came back with that program that showed how the traffic flowed. If you had done so tonight, it would have been a great help to show. I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, it's going to make traffic flow and this is going to work. But if we could have seen that model work ourselves, which we have had in the past, and asked the applicant to bring, and it probably would have helped you, and it probably would have helped this board member, myself, to understand more how that traffic you say is going to flow. I mean, I drive through there, not every day, but I drive through there a lot, and the traffic that you're talking about is not the traffic that I see, especially on a weekend. Coming through there, the lights aren't all together. It's backed up. It's worse than going to Lexington Park in the morning. I go through Lexington Park a lot, and I mean, that's supposed to be our mecca of buildings and businesses, but I'd rather go through Lexington Park than I would Charlotte Hall on the weekends. That's bad to say, but I mean, especially if you get somewhere. I was late for an appointment, doctor's appointment, because I got stuck in Mechanicsville of all places. So, or Charlotte Hall.
Mr. Chair,
That would have helped me tonight.
I got one more question for traffic. The Charlotte Hall Road, Old Maryland 5, where you exit from the Starbucks. Tell me again, is that you can go in either direction there, or is that going to be a right in, right out?
You're talking about?
That will be a full movement access.
Okay.
The only restricted access is the Maryland 5, which is restricted to right in, right out. The other two will be full movement.
Okay. Just from my perspectives, I drive a 1.5-ton truck with a dually. It's parked out front. And if I'm looking to get out on either one of those roads and I use diesel fuel, this is my scenario. I pull in, and if I see stacking going on and the light is also red and blocking, the first thing I'm going to do is go out on Old Charlotte Hall Road, go down, and then make a left and try to come back and catch that light back out on Route 5. So my question is that the purpose of that third entrance and exit on Charlotte Hall Road? And how much traffic will that dump on Old Route 5?
No, the idea is to provide alternate access points, not that they're necessary. The access to Maryland 5, the proposed right in, right out, is necessary because we feel that most of the traffic is going to pull from Maryland 5. You are going to obviously have the local community that will use the side roads, but the pass-by type traffic will be from Route 5. So those the back entrance to Charlotte Hall Road and the site access to Oaks Road were shown to operate at A levels of service from a capacity standpoint.
I'm having a hard time seeing it. The length of the road from Route 5 to Oaks Road heading southbound, what is the distance from that exit heading south to Oaks Road? I can't see it on my prints. Does anybody pick it up?
I think it's right around 500 feet. From the proposed access to Oaks Road.
Jackie, is it the same access point right now from Wentworth onto Charlotte Hall Road? Or maybe Nielsen has that answer.
Actually, there is a rear entrance where there's an existing gate. You can see the landscaping on the sketch that everybody's looking at. And at the end of the landscaping, there is an entrance there. So to your point, Justin, there is an existing exit from Wentworth at that point. If you've been back there, they have the chain link fence and the gating back there.
Right.
That's about where the entrance is right now.
And is that, do you know the distance, Nelson? Just
Yeah.
checking on Google, it looks like 600 feet roughly.
Yeah, it's approximately somewhere around 550, yeah, I would say, to be safe, yeah, about 550.
Joe, was your question Charlotte Hall Road or Route 5 to Oaks? Because I have a thing for, I want to know what it is from 5 to Oaks.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, okay.
From the right in, right out.
Yes, from the right in, right out down
Right.
to Oaks. And I think you guys answered for Charlotte Hall Road.
I think it's approximately.
I think it's about 500 feet along Route 5 from the right in, right out to Oaks Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think because the right in, right out is per se close to the middle of the improvements. It's because you can see the dimensioning on this plan, 530 feet for the lane as it is created, or to the distance, and then it's another about 500 feet to the intersection.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, I have a couple more questions for Ms. Chandler. Also, I didn't get finished. We was talking about the distribution from the site. I didn't see in the traffic impact study, and I'm sure it's in there. For some reason, the reports have gotten extremely hard to read, or for me to understand. Let me put it to you that way. Used to be a sheet that said site distribution, leaving the site 50%, 30%, 20%, if there was 3 of them, or whatever I don't see that. What is the actual percentages assigned to them, or you don't include that in the site, in the plan any longer?
We do, Mr. Van Kirk. It's on page 24. The new trips are on page 24 of the report. The past 5 trips are on page 25. So the percentages of new trips, 25% to and from the south on Maryland 5, 20% to and from the north on 5, 20% from Mount Wolf Road, 20% from Oaks Road to the west, and then 15% from south on Charlotte Hall Road.
But
Those are the new trips.
That's the new trips, right?
That's new trips, correct. And then the past 5 trips are on the next page, page 25.
Oh, yeah, I understand the pass by, you're always gonna have cars out there, but they used to. So on page 24, this is showing me 5 different numbers, and there's only 3 ways to get out of that site. That's what I was a little confused about. It used to have certain numbers assigned to each intersection of a site. So where does it show me the total trips in and out of Route 5? It's not 25%, because you said most people, according to you guys, is going to be leaving, going south.
Right, so, I'm sorry, so on that exhibit on page 24, you'll see the site access point in the center of the page.
Okay.
So there are 26 vehicles in the morning peak, making a right out, and 11 in the PM. Again, those are the new trips. So the next page, it's a bit higher because those are the pass-by trips that we pull off of Route 5. So that's 130 trips in the morning and 100 in the PM, making that right out of the site access.
Page to me is very confusing. It's not as simple as it used to be to try to read it and understand it.
I agree, and this one is a little different because it is a lot more intersections than, you usually see one site access point and then one intersection in either direction, and this one's a triangular piece plus the 3 site access points, so it is a bit confusing.
All right, so that's definitely a question mark. And it also used to have a page in the traffic impact study that showed, even though they really only check peak hours, it used to show what the daily trips in and out were projected for a site. And I had a hard time really seeing that in here. I'm sure it's in here with all the numbers of all the pages, but it's not spelled out as easily as they used to be.
It's not, you're correct, it's not shown in here. I'm gonna say, although it's not shown in here, that it's probably the convenience stores, generally around 4,500 trips per day. Now, remember, that's not vehicles. A trip is, a trip in, so one car would make 2 trips, one in, one out. So it's half of that throughout the day in vehicles. And then the Starbucks is probably around 1,200 ADT. And that's throughout the day. That's 24 hours.
So if we
Not
round
that-
up to be
not-
safe by those numbers, we're looking at close to 6,000 total trips. I know half in and half out. I mean, that's 5,995 more than they typically get. So I'm saying it's quite a bit more
Correct.
than,
You got it.
to me, the numbers do not reflect what it's going to be versus what it is now. I
And
understand the pass-by trips, yes. I understand that most of them cars are going to be on that road, so it's not, I'm not questioning the pass-by trips. I'm questioning the number of the pass-by trips that had no intention of stopping by Wentworth Nursery, but they're definitely going to stop by one of these 2 places, or both. And when they go in...
so
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So remember that the ADT, that 6,000 ADT includes those pass-by trips. So 76-ish% of that ADT are vehicles that are already on the road today. They just may pull in and pull back out.
Yeah, causing more congestion and traffic hazards at the intersections. That's my point. Like I said, I understand the cars are there. They're already there, but they're going in a straight line, which is a whole lot safer than right in, righting out, or going down Oaks Road and trying to left out into a sea of other cars. Just like I say, just things that I'm taking that we didn't seem to have, that we used to always have that info in here. And we also used to have, and I didn't see it in the report, I looked pretty thorough. Used to always show the speed limits on all the roads, and I didn't see them in the traffic impact study. I'm not sure if it tapers down when you get to Charlotte Hall, if it's still 55, and I don't know what Oaks Road is. Is that shown anywhere what the speed limits are?
It's actually shown on the APF form that's submitted, so it should be in the staff report.
Okay, it used to always be in the traffic impact study. Okay, I see it.
It's 55.
You don't happen to know what Oaks Road is, do you?
I do not.
35.
35?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just did a Google, drove up and down the road, found the sign, because it's 35.
Thank you. Let me see if I have any more
Google is your friend.
Yeah.
distance. You mentioned that Synchro program. At this time, I know you use that, for the flows and stuff, but at this time, none of your level A, B, C, D, whatever, is relying on retiming any signals.
That is correct. The time, we use the existing timing in that program to show the impact of the site on the intersection. And then what we do is say, okay, well, we're gonna do this improvement where we're adding another outbound lane. So then we may be able to change the timing, to improve the overall intersection. So with this improvement, we can get the intersection back to an acceptable C level of service, which I'm going to say is pretty hard along a corridor such as Maryland 5. It's really hard to get a C level of service. In your development district in Lexington Park, we're allowed to be at a D level of service and still be acceptable. So it's tough to get to an acceptable C level of service along this corridor, but with these improvements this developer's offering, we can get back to a C level of service.
No, the only reason I was asking you is I do appreciate the fact that you're putting in an extra northbound lane out of Oaks. And I mean, that will definitely improve the queuing and getting people out of there. But we've had projects before, not just with you guys, but with other companies, that one of the things they say, oh, we'll improve everything and take it from a F to a D or a D to a C. We'll just retime the lights. To me, if it was that simple, state of Maryland, I would have thought common sense wise, it would have already went through the state and done that. I was just making sure that none of your projections was simply relying on that.
No, and the problem with that, Mr. Van Kirk, is the State Highway Administration, when they use time signals, they want their state road to flow. So they will put all their time along the state road and they'll make your side streets suffer. So you can theoretically change timing and make it the overall intersection better, but we do generally look at those kinds of things in case something's way out of whack. That's not usually, what we would offer as an improvement.
Okay, that's all I have, Jackie. Thank you very much for answering everything.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Hi, Jackie, this is Kim Summers. I have another question. When I go back to the question that Mr. Van Kirk, or the issue that he had raised earlier, I have some more questions about those lanes that are designated with the blue arrows on Oaks Road. Given the fact that people who are heading north will probably stop at Wawa or Exxon, people heading south will more than likely use the Royal Farms. My question is it, do we have to have the two lanes on Oaks Road heading north? Couldn't we have one that's going straight, one that's designated to go right, and one that's designated to go left? Because having the one lane that goes straight and the other lane that goes south it's very confusing, and I think it leads to more problems.
Well, that is based on the traffic volumes coming out. So the left turn volume is much higher than the through and the rights even combined. So in order to reduce that queue, we want to have a double left out of there. There were projected to be 143 left turns in the PM peak, and there's only 57 throughs. So the best use, for the lanes is to provide that double left.
Well, questioning on that, then you're saying more traffic's going to turn left to go north. Part of your things that you wanted to do for mitigation was to elongate the turn lane that is coming south that turns onto Mount Wolf Road. You're going to extend that out to alleviate some of that traffic there. One, that doesn't do anything for Royal Farms because that's helping Wawa across the street get in there. I would think if you were making 2 lanes that were turning left to go north on Mount Wolf, then you should extend the turn lane that's heading north on 5 that turns into Mount Wolf Road. Because if you're saying that more people are coming out to go north, well, they've got to get in there to get back out. So evidently they're already heading north. They're going to turn into that site. And they're going to stack up there. They already stack up there, right there at that turnoff. So, to me, you're extending the wrong turn side. That's just my opinion, my one board member opinion. But I think you got it backwards. I'm not worried about Wawa and Mount Wolf. I shouldn't say that. I worry about all those roads because the way it's congested and stuff up there. But what I worry more about is the people that you're saying now already that you have to have 2 lanes turning north to get that traffic back out of there and get it back up there. But you haven't helped the turn lane that's going into that site that's heading north. I think that turn lane should have been extended on the other side instead of the southbound side, my opinion.
Agree with you.
Okay. Yes, we did look at that as part of the simulation and as part of the queuing analysis that's in the traffic impact study. The northbound left turn lane is adequate in length. The southbound lane, for the Wawa is actually deficient today. So this developer is offering to fix an existing deficiency. All of our calculations show that the northbound left turn bay will be sufficient to handle the additional traffic.
I just disagree with that opinion. And like I say, if you'd shown us maybe on a flow, on a simulation, I'd like to see that. But of course, you can make it work any way you want it to work. I mean, it's, pushing buttons and things like that. I'm just going by what I see when I travel. And I think that needs to, because that turn lane, the turn lane to go on to Mount Wolf when you're heading north, I know gets used a lot by businesses that you have to do a UE on. Brinsfield is one, it's bad to say when you got to go to the funeral home a lot, but a lot of people whip around, do a U-turn right there, and I've seen it backed up on that side. And you have, sometimes people don't like that intersection at Golden Beach because it really is fun. So they'll go down there, turn around and come back to go to like Rita's, go to the store that's there beside it. I think there's a restaurant or bar that's there. A lot of people stay away from that Golden Beach intersection just because it's had a lot happen over the last few years. I don't have to go into that, but anybody that lives there knows. So that's my differing opinion on that. I wish you'd had that simulation tonight, but like I say, the simulation, you can make it work the way you want it to work. I'm just doing by not necessarily a site visit, just a visit going through town, observation.
Let me ask a question on that, Howard. Are you talking about the left turn lane prior to Oaks and Mount Wolf that would go up here and turn?
Right.
Okay.
I would rather see that extended than I would the one.
I wasn't sure where you were
go
talking.
the one that heads south that goes into Mount Wolf. I know that's already a failing part of the intersection, but it's going to fail on both sides as far as
I
I'm
will say
concerned.
what they're correcting on the Route 5 side coming south.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it'll help.
It'll not only help, it's extremely, when them cars get backed up and then now there's a rut from the grass to the blacktop, so
Yeah.
you can only get so many, you better have a monster truck or you're going to lose your front end. But then they stick out all in the lane and you got the new cars.
I apologize for that.
Coming up behind. So I understand what you're saying here, but I know it doesn't help
Yeah.
any of the questions that I've asked Ms. Chandler about the traffic over here, but but it's certainly.
Oh, it does help that
I've tried to
intersection.
create my
Route
own
5
route.
also, not just the intersection.
And
It
they
gets
have
the
to,
cars off.
have to
of-
improve
yeah.
that Route 5 intersection, but
Yeah.
like I say, when they have dual turn lanes heading north, that tells me that they've got people coming in there that are heading north. And the only people that are heading north are the ones that are heading north, you know what I mean, on
Yeah.
5. So, I think you need a longer turn lane there too.
I just think it makes more sense on Oaks Road to have the double left. I understand that. The middle lane should be left and a straight through, and you should have it dedicated south. That's just my.
I agree with you on
My
that.
opinion. I don't
I
even
want to
know.
add another lane in there.
Well, I don't know if
Which
there's
is-
room to add another lane, but
Well, there is, you can just, we'll have to bust into their site a little bit more. I mean, they're gonna have to change it. I mean, that's a big change that's coming. I mean, Wentworth has a great business, but it ain't gonna be like it is with Royal Farms, I can
oh no,
grant you
it's
that.
no comparison of the trips.
I'm sorry.
No, Starbucks.
Starbucks, I mean, you go to the one in California,
It's
they're
backed
sticking
up.
in
Unbelievable.
the,
It's backed up like.
Let me ask you guys
Terrible,
one more
so.
question before you. I know you're getting ready to say something.
Okay.
Whose decision is it to have them lanes like that? Is it you guys? Is it the county since it's a county? Is it the state since it's going out on the state road? I mean, could the developer say, okay, we want to put a double left, but with the center left going straight across and have a dedicated turn lane to this? Is that a developer decision or is that a state highway?
Mr.
or-
Mills is on.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Mills is on. He would.
Don, you can ask
probably,
Mr. Mills, he might be able to tell you something. Mr. Mills, you still with us?
And I can interject as well. We typically start to look to provide double left turn lanes when the peak hour volume gets around 300. That's typical for a state highway intersection as well. The volume northbound to turn left is projected to be 107 in the morning, so it's still pretty short for providing a double left. I did actually have a conversation with Kim Tran at State Highway Administration about possibly providing a double left southbound, but the volume was not high enough. So the state didn't want us to look for a double left there, so the alternative was to lengthen that turn bay.
I'm just giving you what I see at other super convenience centers like these. And I know somebody else touched on this. I think it was Miss Summers. A high percentage of people using this Royal Farms is going to be people traveling southbound down Route 5 from work during the peak hours. Most of them people aren't going back north. So they're, I guess, either coming out of the main entrance, as you said, most people will, or they're going to come out Oaks and turn south. You know, I see a high percentage of, like when I go up the road, if I don't feel like crossing Route 5, I'll just go another 2 miles to the next convenience store. Then I don't have to fool with the intersections. I don't have to do a U-turn. I don't have to worry about any of that. And I see a high number of people, even though this will be a unique property since it would be the only Royal Farms in quite a distance over on the Eastern Shore and one up by BWI Airport, as far as I know. But I still think a high percentage will already be coming south. So they will continue south, whether it's out of what intersection. So I don't know if in the afternoon peak I see all them people. You know, I'm sure you've always got traffic because it's, you know, not everybody's going to be utilizing only for the pass by, but I say a high percentage. So I think there's some validity to looking at that a different way. And I know you talked to Mr. Tran, but still nobody really answered. Whose final decision is it? Is it developer? Is it county highway? And I know Mr. Mills should be on the line, hopefully. So
this is Justin Rosemore again, the developer. So if it's if it's up to me, I'm completely fine, with having one left turn, a straight through and a right turn lane. The only thing I'm not sure about is, and maybe Jackie can answer this for us, if that's what we want to do, does State Highway have the right to overrule us? And also, as far as from St. Mary's County, for some reason, I was under the impression that this was what they originally wanted when you were speaking with, the traffic engineers at St. Mary's County. But I may have misunderstood that. But either way, I would be fine with making a straight through if we're allowed to.
I don't think we wanted to.
Yeah, and, we can start. I'm sorry. We can certainly take a look at that. The idea is to get, the best level of service we can get. And the best level of service we can get is going to be based on the traffic volumes. That would be the double left. We can go back and certainly take a look at that. If the county would prefer for it to be a left, a through, and a right. We can work through that with the model as well.
Yeah, I didn't say a left, a through, and a right. I said there still be a double left, but the center lane would be a left / straight through.
Correct.
So you still have a double left.
Right.
That's where the straight through cars.
Straight.
You can do either or.
Because I would think there'd be more going north and more going south than it would be straight across.
Because you couldn't have a protected left then.
Huh?
You couldn't have a protective left then, because if you had a left turn signal to make the left onto Route 5 going north, then there'd be traffic from the other direction coming that way. So the straight throughs would be
There'd be a conflict.
Would have to be a four-way light. I mean, if they're going this way, nobody.
That intersection is split phased.
Oh, okay.
Can you
So
just describe?
they each go.
Okay.
Can you describe that, Jackie, so the whole commission understands?
Yeah, so those side roads go independently. So Oaks Road will come up and those vehicles flow, and then it stops, and then Mount Wolf will go.
So it could work that way. Okay. I stand corrected. Ms. Chandler, I just have a suggestion. I've seen some complicated intersections like this, and the conversations or the questions, a lot of them are solved when the Synchro sim traffic simulation is used, and you throw the numbers in there and you show how the queuing works and you show how the turning movements work. I know that's expensive and it's time consuming, but perhaps future clients that might be coming with their applications to this board, it could save a lot of us trying to figure out the numbers. As like my mother used to say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Here it's numbers, not words. It's one thing to read the numbers on a piece of paper, but to actually visualize, those cars queuing and how they back up, on the existing conditions. And I just think that, it's definitely a time, it's a timely expense there, but I think it's definitely worth it for some of these more complicated intersections.
We did it for the 7-Eleven
Yes, and
on Route 5. We did both simulation and live pictures type of thing.
yes, and we did provide a synchro analysis for this project. The printouts are all part of the traffic mitigation proposal. So DPW&T has reviewed that as well as the state highway.
Mr. Evans?
With Mr. Van Kirk, what you suggested was a dedicated left out, a center, left, or through, and right dedicated?
Yes.
Okay, so there are any number of places in St. Mary's that don't have that are disastrous. And that is eastbound on St. Andrew's Church Road, approaching FDR Boulevard, is a good example of that. You have a shared through and right, and all you need is one car that wants to make that movement, and those cars queue all the way back to FDR Boulevard. And how could that be mitigated would be, in that case, would be a right turn lane, so that people could go ahead and make their right turn, while it's not that there's opportunities to make that right turn. So it concerns me a bit about the queuing, and don't misunderstand, I'm not saying that this intersection is anything like St. Andrews and FDR Boulevard. It's just that that's an example of what happens when you have any number of cars that are coming out of Royal Farms. And I agree with Joe. I think that you're going to wind up with a lot of cars coming out and heading south in the morning. Actually, more than you might expect. And we don't know what those will be until, if and when this goes forward, when it opens. And if you have a lot of people coming, south in the morning, stop there, and then they have to get out of Royal Farms they have to go across traffic to make a right onto 5 heading south, and without that dedicated turn lane, that's going to be a problem. At least in my in my opinion, that is a problem. And I say that based on other places in St. Mary's where we have that situation. So, my 2 cents.
We have that quite a few places, like you said, but it's almost the worst in the county, where you said, I was in that the other day all the way back to DPW building, because one car was waiting to go through, and most cars wanted to turn. If they're right there, they want to go into FDR, into the stores and stuff,
right.
And you can't move because it's a.
And I guess this isn't. I'm not trying to get in the way of this project. I'm just simply saying that from traveling around the county as much as I do, traffic is an issue, and we're not going to fix it here tonight. But having these discussions hopefully will be helpful to try to mitigate getting from point A to point B, and at least having opportunities. And I agree with you. You need to have opportunities, alternative opportunities, to move around the community. And so access to Charlotte Hall Road, while I think that the traffic is going to increase, if nothing more, you're going to have people ducking in and out of Oaks Road. That's just what's just going to happen. But Lexington Park, Mr. Hansisi was talking about Lexington Park. I've set 5 cycles on Great Mills Road trying to get through Great Mills Road to Route 5. And again, those problems are those problems for those locations, and I'm just trying to figure out the best
not to have it here.
Answer here. And it seems to me, that a dedicated left, a left and a straight through, and then a dedicated right, in my opinion, seems to be a better answer than the idea that you're going to have as much traffic as you think you might heading north. I mean, I'm not going to argue your numbers. They're your numbers. So, just my 2 cents.
One of the reasons why I argue that at the one in Leonardtown and this one is simply because I also think that once users realize that Oaks Road has, if they was to get it, a dedicated southbound turn lane where they could get out, you're going to have a whole lot less people, no matter what the numbers show, realizing it's going to be a whole lot safer to me to exit on Oaks Road and go south than it is to try to cut out there in amongst people doing, whatever down Route 5, and, some people getting over, trying to turn into, I just think once they realize that, if we could get to that, I think it would be a safer alternative to people coming out of I think less would use the right in, right out on Route 5. Or at least the right out.
And I would say that I think it's better for this project, and I think as you say, I think it's better for the community for this to be a dedicated right out. Again, another alternative to have a southbound movement, again, at the expense of the developer, but that's just, that's the way it is. I think it makes the project better, and I think it makes the community better. So-
Well, ideally, we add another lane, but if they can't do that,
Right.
then
Right.
I wouldn't see it as a, but that's just.
Yeah, just as far as the geometry goes, the entrance coming out is as far west as we go because of the septic field and where it perked. So what happens is we probably would have liked to have pushed it farther to the west so that as people come out, they have more queue length, right? More queue length, but it's stuck where, and then because we have to make the tapers that Jackie shows on our concept there to make, the drop of the lane and all these other geometric things that happen, an additional lane is just going to be very difficult, almost impossible there because the taper to bring in the additional lane at the entrance, we're fixed with the corner that's there at the entrance, which is the northwesterly corner where the house is currently, and all that field is going to be all septic. So to get all your setbacks and meet your requirements, we have only so much area that we have that's already been approved by the health department for our septic field, so.
All right, well, then we got two small problems then. I guess Mrs. Chandler understands that we're going to want to see a simulation of this. If I'm trying to speak for the board. If there's anybody that doesn't want to see it, raise your hand, but I think it would show both the board and the public, this is a hot spot. I mean, it's a hot spot, and we're going to have to see how this thing is going to flow. Both with the some of the points that were brought up about maybe that when you come back, the sidewalks on the site you could show. One of the things I didn't get to bring up is, people on that 3-notch trail back there, it's a beautiful trail. People love to travel it. They're going to want to go to Starbucks, or they're going to want to go to Royal Farm. They're going to want to go to Starbucks first to get a cup of coffee to get them back to Mechanicsville on that trail. I mean,
Well, they can go to Royal Farm and get some fried chicken too.
and
I mean, they
get
got some
chicken too.
very good
I'm
chicken.
not saying it's going. They're both popular businesses. They're going to be used.
Yeah.
So I need to see a way, a crosswalk. I mean, they have a crosswalk for the trail itself.
Right.
We're going to need to see, and I guess Mr. Mills is going to have to work with you on that, because I know one time before, we can't just say where we want a crosswalk. But it would behoove the applicant to work with the state and the county to see about getting a crosswalk to that trail, because people are going, that trail's used a lot. I mean, I didn't really realize it until I went to go to a couple places and had to stop to let people go through, at odd times. While you're working things, Mr. Aracho, I hope I didn't pronounce that wrong.
Arocho, yeah. that's good,
Aracho,
yeah.
okay, I'm sorry, sir.
Practice for all of your R's. You can say Arocho, but that's okay. We won't
You
go that
can,
far.
Maybe you can, if it is coming back, maybe you can find out about the car chargers
Yeah.
that were asked about, and the architectural difference that was asked about.
Yeah.
And Mr. Murphy, I guess you thought you were going to get off tonight. Can you come up? I got to ask you a question tonight. I know we have a few members of the public here tonight. I have the feeling that if they're here, they came to say something. And, why come and sit here and watch it when you can sit at home unless you want to say something? I don't know how many callers we have. My turmoil is, do I open it to public testimony? Let them say something tonight, but then when they come back and they have new information, I'd have to do it all over again. So being that, do I ask the public to be gracious enough, and I'm glad they're here tonight, and if they came here tonight, I would certainly hope they would come to the next one, because we'd have even more information. Is that the smarter way to do it, is to go ahead and just hold public testimony until we get all the information? Because we've done that in the past, and it turned into not very, it hurt the applicant more than it did them. It just started going back and forth. I would rather have Mr. Longmore's clients give all their information that we're asking for tonight, then have public testimony. and go about.
And what I can say, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that because I think it does make it difficult. It feels like round after round, and there's misinformation out. I've been touching base with my client just to make sure I understood where they stood on the questions. They are willing to offer the configuration at the intersection that has been proposed to have a left turn only on the left, a left turn and straight through on the middle lane, and then a right turn. They'll have to get that approved, but they're willing to run that risk that that'll satisfy the conditions, even if that were a condition put on it tonight. They're also willing to accept a condition that there be a crosswalk on Charlotte Hall Road connected to the sidewalk, and have to get that approved and work with the county to do that. I know that would not entail a simulation being in front of you, and I know that was one of the questions, but if those two conditions are acceptable to them, and that's something the commission would consider without additional information, they are willing to kind of take the risk. Now, if there's other things the board needs and we need to come back, we have to. This project has been delayed a lot on the front end. Bluntly, I'm working with the county a lot when they came back and asked for the Mount Wolf Road and Oaks Road, Oaks Road to be reconfigured, and they sort of like the configuration that is in the paperwork here. So we're willing to redo it. There are several meetings we're actually on the agenda, I think in July, and we pulled that to work with them on Oaks Road. So I'm voicing that for my client because they're concerned about more delays, but certainly if the planning commission needs more information, we understand that, but they're willing to make those offers without getting final approvals or even preliminary approvals to do so. And if they can't meet the conditions, they can't meet it, and then their plan would stall.
I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. I don't want problems down the road. Can I ask the board for a straw poll to see how they feel about his suggestion on that?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a question? If Donnie Mills, I haven't heard anything from him. He's here on.
Well, he did speak at one time. I mean,
Now that he's mentioned that, does Donnie have anything that he can shed a light on here this evening?
Mr. Mills, is there anything that you can add to this?
I mean, if it's a condition that the crosswalk go in, then, that would be a part of, the permit process, just like he's got on Oak Road here. All of that's going to require a permit through the county, through DPW's office.
What about the?
And the striping, as far as the striping, when you, we did go at the double left, and as Jackie said, that was to get the best level of service for the road, for that intersection. So if you go with what's being proposed tonight, the level of service might not get there. I don't know until everything's run through synchro and coordinated with the SHA. So that would be the one thing of the configuration change that could potentially come up, and then you got you'll have Bill Hunt, the planning director, tasked with final approval, with making that determination of APF at final approval, and if that doesn't happen, then they can't meet the condition that you sounds like you may place.
For Ms. Chandler, also on the synchro, I'd like to have it worked in on one of the exhibits, the addition of that, elongating that turn lane left from the northbound lane. So I don't know how the board feels. I'm gonna let each one of you. I'm not gonna have a straw poll. I'm just gonna let the board members speak for themselves as to whether they would like to see a report bought by Ms. Chandler for a simulation that shows the different I'll say, suggestions that we have brought forward tonight. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Hey, I'm coming down the
Yeah,
line.
we'll go that way.
I'm coming down the line. Get ready, Mr.
So, Mr. Mills'
St. Clair.
comment with regard to what suggestions we've made, is he saying that it needs to go through the simulation anyway to see if it meets the standards? Isn't that what he's just said? Well, then I'm not sure how we can do much of anything without seeing it. I mean, if he doesn't know until they run the simulation.
I can't do a straw poll, but I need to hear your opinions.
Well, I know, but I guess I'm just, if you have to run the simulation to see if this would work, to meet the requirements,
Okay.
without having run the simulation, then you can't make that determination, right?
Okay. Mr. St. Clair?
I have to see the simulation, but I also have to see the two scenarios that we presented in it.
Okay. Mr. Fazekas?
Well, as Ms. Chandler said, she presented the turning movements that gave the best level of service. And if we're saying common sense, we think this other arrows would work better with the different lanes. That would mean they have to go back and do that, and it could possibly continue as a failed level D service. So I think we need to see the comparison of the two and how what we're asking for and what they've shown to us, how differences in numbers, and ideally, yeah, visually. I'm a visual person to see that simulation. And then also, in a non-traffic thing, see something nicer than the cookie cutter aluminum siding Starbucks, and see something that actually is more, in character with the buildings around it, especially with the concerns of, that the back ends of these buildings are right along Three Notch Trail, which is a very beautiful asset in the county, so.
Okay. Mr. Van Kurt?
I don't have a problem with the project. As I stated, I usually have more questions on traffic. And the one thing that I really have, and like I say, I don't do it for a living. Just I see some other movements in the county that do not operate properly with a shared right turn and a straight through. Maybe there's some that do. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. I mean, the intersection now is a D. Is that correct, Ms. Chandler?
The intersection would be a D without these improvements, yes.
Okay.
With the improvement, the double left improvement would improve it to an acceptable C level of service.
So I guess for me, the only thing that, because you've already said you'll put the striping and the crosswalk to the trail, I personally don't have a problem with the Starbucks building, other than I would like to see, like Mr. Evans said, something on the back to kind of break up whether it's corrugated metal or block or whatever back there. But if the developer is willing to look at what a few of us, or quite a few, I think, have said about the dedicated left and then the left and straight through and the dedicated right, and hopefully the projections of the synchro would show that being a C, which I guess it has to be to move forward. I guess, I mean, it's already a D, but that's where I stand. If somebody tonight could say, we'll do all that stuff and we are happy to explore that, I don't have any problem making that as a condition for myself, but I know wouldn't be any problem to see the synchro, but I guess we'd want to see, if we're going to do that, I'd want to see what it is now and what makes it work so well with the traffic versus what it's going to be if you went to the dedicated left, the left straight through, and the dedicated right. I'd want to see two of them.
Okay. Ms. Roebuck?
I would like to see the synchro model, and I'd like to see the comparative analysis of this, what's stated in here, and the conditions you've recommended.
Okay. Ms. Sullivan?
I agree with everything that's been said. But I also would like to add that, again, it's hard to disagree with the numbers, but I do live this every day. And I know what I do to avoid some of the traffic situations that currently exist on Route 5. And I need the visualization. Absolutely.
Okay. You know how I feel. Okay. Folks in the audience and calling in, if you're going to be mad at somebody, go ahead and be mad at me. I guess that's why I make all this vast amount of money to sit on this board. But
Yeah, it's high-powered paying job.
in order to do things properly, I can't let you talk from the
Fried
audience.
chicken.
So, but anyhow, I'm gonna have to ask y'all to please come back. What you're gonna say and your opinions mean a lot to the board. I can tell you in a hearing that is not too far back, we had some folks from right in your area, right up there, and what they came and bought before the board, I think changed it. It made a big difference in how those two projects came out on 235.
Yep.
So your opinions are very valuable. Now, you can mail them in if you want us to get it. If they were to send, Mr. Hunt, haven't talked to you all night. If they were to mail in their statements and such, we would get those, say, before we came back. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Everything we get, we would submit to the board as soon as we get it, and we put it on board docs as well. The other thing, if the people prefer to do something visual instead of written, is it is possible to send us a video, and we can play that instead or in addition.
Okay. So while it's fresh in your mind, and you might not want to lose it because it's going to be a few weeks before we come back, get it down on paper and send it to us, or make a video. And same goes for people that are out in their homes tonight watching that we're going to call in. Public's opinion is very valuable to this board. As you say, when you live there, you know what's happening. So please do so. Mr. Longmore, we got 2 dates. You're not going to like either one of them, I'm sure. January 31st and worse. So would you like the January 31st date?
So I know that, without asking, I know that's the earliest date the commission can give us.
You don't want to hear the other one?
Yeah, I certainly can make that date.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. We have July 31st and March 21st for whatever
That was
reason.
January, correct, not July 31st, I hope.
January 31st.
Just, you're going to hear some voices.
Yeah, I'm going to hear about that too. January 31st.
Okay.
And the other one's March 21st. If for whatever reason, say that you can't get things straight for the January 31st, we can always use that other one. Unless somebody else snags it.
I mean, I know, if that's the soonest, that's the soonest, and I can certainly make that work and be here.
All right.
I know Mr. Rosemore and Jackie are on the line. I'm assuming with that much notice, that can be done. I know there's a frustration that the scheduling, but it is what it is, so we understand that.
I mean, I'd like to be able to say, but we're kind of booked up this month, and we don't even normally do the amount of meetings we do in this month.
Right.
But we're booked up. All right, do I have a motion to, go ahead.
Let me make sure just before motion, I could have done the discussion, but have we told the applicant, Mr. Longmore, everything that we want them to bring back?
I hope
So
so.
just want to make sure that,
Well, I mean,
we want both the synchro models of what it is now and what it could possibly be, and what the levels would be from each one of them,
Starbucks architecture,
some architecture,
sidewalk, crosswalk
One over.
and sidewalks,
and sidewalks. And
car chargers.
For the sidewalks, earlier we discussed exploring with Shaw whether they could do the sidewalks all along 5.
All the way around, yeah.
Yeah, in addition to the sidewalk access from the 3-notch trail with
Right.
the crosswalk.
Right.
Okay.
On the 3 sides of the property.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
were you also going to extend or ask to extend the northbound left in?
Yes. That was part of the traffic
Okay.
simulation. Anything else? Okay.
And just for the motion, be sure to include the date or the time and place.
Okay.
So in case it wasn't clear.
Okay. Somebody want to make that motion for the continuation? Time and date on it?
You've already got the language. I just make the motion that's what we talked about.
All right, well, it was January 31st, 6:30 in this meeting room.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. St. Clair and a second by Mr. Fazekas. Roll call time. Mr. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. St. Clair?
Aye.
Mr. Fazekas?
Aye.
Mr. Van Kirk?
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Roebuck?
Aye.
Okay, Ms. Summers?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
See you and Happy New Year. Is there any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I second.
There you go. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.